called Christians Alert. Democrats are attacking our country.
Uh-huh.
And I do mention Goebbels. I
Right.
mentioned Saul Alinsky. And for that matter, I do an analysis of the Democrat Party and their tactics. And the analysis shows a complete parallel between what Goebbels said, what Saul Alinsky said, rules for radicals, and their tactics today in the way in which they handle their interface with the American people. And I just spread it out very nicely and openly so people could understand, this is why they're doing what they're doing. This is why they're saying what they're saying. And this is why they say what they say and how they say it. It's
Mhm.
all crafted by communist influence and by Nazi influence from the 30s. What
Yeah,
you say is true.
yeah, but bigger than that. Well, you know who Goebbels said he learned from? He learned from Woodrow Wilson.
Yeah, I forgot about that. You're right.
Wilson, Wilson. Remember that Wilson used propaganda, and when propaganda wouldn't work, he used what do you call it? They used the Sedition Act to imprison 125,000 Americans.
Well, that makes you warm and comfortable now, doesn't it?
125. Why don't we learn that in the history books that 125,000, not 125, 125,000 Americans were imprisoned during World War One because they didn't believe in going the to entering World War One.
Well, I guess the only nice thing I can say about that at this point in time is that he won't be able to get away with it these days.
Well, no, but let's talk a little bit about you've written in the news media that you've written that the news media is in league with the Democrat Party, and can you support that assertion? I know you can, but just go ahead and talk about it.
Oh, sure. Well, just last week, uh, there was a big a concert of voices in the media where they were talking about climate change. That's one of the biggest hoaxes ever perpetrated on mankind. And all in the same day, commentators and news people from CNN, MSNBC, CBS, ABC, and others, along with Democrat Party leadership, like one of my favorite people, pencil neck Adam Schiff, they all were talking about existential threat, that the climate is an existential threat to humankind, and we're all going to die in 12 years unless we vote Democrat. That's fundamentally the proposition. But the amazing thing is that the term existential threat appeared simultaneously throughout the entire media, throughout all the media commentators and people, talking heads from the Democrat Party. So you got to wonder, who's the band leader behind all of this? And this happens time and time and time again, where you get solidified, consistent messaging from the Democrat side of Congress and the media together, singing from this very same songbook. And let's face it, they are in collusion with each other. And it would be very interesting if someone took an objective analysis to dredge up more of these examples than just the one I mentioned. There are many more, but we don't have time to talk about all of them.
Well, I look at Chris Matthews, Rachel Maddox, that Lawrence guy, and they all have the same talking points. They all, talk about the same thing over and over and over. And Rachel comes on and she sounds the alarm. Oh my God, we need socialism. And she doesn't say that. She just says that Bernie has a great plan. And I go, Bernie Sanders has never had a real job in his damn life. Bernie Sanders has never managed a company, much like Barack Obama. Bernie Sanders has been a career nobody really, but he goes to Vermont and he could become senator because nobody wants to run up there. I mean, it's in Vermont. So, my friend, what are we going to do? That's the question. How do we turn this term, keep the clock going forward? Because this thing called "Make America Great" is really working. And if Congress ever passes USMCA, the U.S. Mexican and American Trade Agreement, which promises to bring almost 180,000 jobs to America and over I think it's $20 billion or something like that in terms of uh, uh,
Uh-huh.
trade revenue. I mean, these people are scared of Trump. I've said this. You believe it or not, Richard, everything that Donald Trump is doing today, whether it's the border, whether it's trade, I've talked about these things and I've been the contrarian, right? I've swimming against the stream because people are talking about globalism. And my thing has always been the hell with globalism. I don't care what happens in China. I don't care what happens in the Philippines. I don't care what happens to the people in Mexico, but I do care about Americans having good jobs, Americans having opportunities. And the other thing that is really pissing me off, I heard Grunfeld the other day on Fox say that there's 3 million jobs that are going unfilled in America. Who's going to fill? I keep wondering, where do these people pull these numbers from? How do they think they can get these numbers? I mean, what do these numbers really mean? So we still have high unemployment for Americans. We still have Americans unemployed. So where are the jobs? Don't tell me about bringing people here from outside of the country to fill these jobs. It's just like refugees. This is my analogy, and tell me if you agree with me or not on this refugee issue. I say,
Well,
wait, let me finish. I say, this is my refugee comparison. On the south side and the west side of Chicago, we have gangs killing children, killing school children, killing children walking to school, killing parents, just shooting arbitrarily, shooting people. We have drugs. Can these people? Now we're just talking Chicago. We're not talking Detroit, Atlanta, New York, L.A. Can these people go to Mexico or Honduras or Guatemala or Peru or any South American country or Europe? Can they jump on a plane and go over to the UK or Spain or Italy and or go to China even and claim asylum and claim refugee status? Because see, we don't settle refugees in slums. We don't resettle refugees in poor areas. We tend to put them in upper middle class areas to participate in this American dream thing. Do you ever notice that? Like the Sanaif brothers, they have this big old house and Mercedes in the driveway, and I mean, you go, how does a refugee come over here and get all that?
well, yeah, there's a couple of dimensions to all of that. From my perspective, this is part of a evil plan on the part of the Democrats to restructure the demographics of the United States. The more people they can bring into this country and put them onto the various welfare and social programs that we have in this country, the more people are going to be available to vote Democratic. The Democrats realize that U.S. citizens are generally not going with their program, and they're never going to have the dominion type power that they lust after over God's children that live in our country. And so they have to use excuses like what you're talking about to import these people and ultimately grant them citizenship so that there will be more potential voters for the Democrat ticket.
Well,
And
Richard,
people are going to vote Democrat if they're depending upon the government for their health care, for their social security, for their shelter, for their food, that sort of thing. That's really what's behind all of it. It's a democratic shift. It's a Democrat shift of demographics in our country
well,
to favor Democrat politicians.
well, let me just share this with you. As you know, and I know, things don't happen in a void. This plan was put in place to change the demographics of America. It was put in place back in 1965. Do you know by what, by whom, and how it was implemented?
1965 sounds like it would be Lyndon Johnson.
Yeah, he signed the bill, but do you know who and why and this changing of the demographics of America came about?
No, that's something you'll have to tell me
Okay,
about.
okay. So Ted Kennedy, just as black people, 1965 is known for what? The passage of the Civil Rights Act called the Voting Rights Act, right? Which was meant
Yes.
to allow blacks to enter the mainstream America, okay, and become full-fledged citizens, and no one could hold them back. At the same year, that noble, that senator of nobility, that senator of honor, that, and I'm being facetious because he was a damn coward, Teddy Kennedy, authored and sponsored a bill
Yep.
called the Immigration Act of 1965. The Immigration Act of 1965 opened the floodgates to immigrants coming in this country. Who do immigrants impact? The people at the lower socioeconomic uh, spectrum of the ladder. So just as blacks were getting opportunities to compete in society, they open up the floodgates for these immigrants to come in here who will work for less, who don't understand they're Americans, don't know their American rights, who employees have always exploited, and so it pushed blacks further down the food chain, further down the economic picture. And this is not anything new. The U.S. Commission on Civil Rights has talked about this for the last 50 years, about the negative impact of immigration, both legal and illegal, on black and brown Americans who are here in this country, and poor whites, as far
Oh,
as
yeah, I
that's
agree
concerned.
wholeheartedly with you.
So, man, how come people don't talk about this stuff? Now, watch. Everything that I talk about is like a 7 year loop. I've been talking about the remittance issue since 2008, 2009, about how much money we send Mexicans send to Mexico, about how much, but Mexico has been totally swamped by China. China sends almost $43 billion a year back to China. There's only 30 billion going back to Mexico, and in between, and Mexico's number three. But we have literally almost $250 billion leaving our economy. You know what a guy from one of the think tanks told me? He said it's almost $1 trillion that leaves our economy every year in remittances. You know what I had one guy tell me? He said, "Oh, that's peanuts." I said, "How's that peanuts when the national debt at that point was like it was like for that year was $3 trillion. So a third of our certified national debt was going out of the country to other countries, and this guy's telling me that's a drop in the bucket." I said, "Man, listen to yourself. You're supposed to be an intelligent guy."
Well, that's an eye opener now, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, he tells me, well, $1 trillion leaving the company, that's just a drop in the bucket. I said, well, the national debt for this year, I'm sorry, the debt for this year and this year's budget is $3 trillion. So you're telling me that 1/3 of this year's debt is no big deal that leaves our country and go to someone else as first dollars, not second, not third, not fourth dollars, but first dollars being sent out of the economy. We're losing $1 trillion of the economy every year to remittances. I think, you did the math. You heard my analysis. It makes sense, doesn't it? So when you say we have a slow recovery,
You make total sense.
so when you say we have a see, the reason that one of the reasons that Barack Obama had such a slow recovery was because people just didn't believe in his policies. They didn't believe in him. They didn't invest in new workers. They didn't invest in new equipment. They said, "I'm going to ride this out because I don't know where this crazy socialist nut job is going." And they go, "Oh, he's so great. He never
Well,
had a."
there's something else. There's another dynamic that's mixed into all of that as well, and that's that under Barack Obama, the Federal Register, that is the sum total of all the federal regulations that are in existence that people and businesses must follow. Under Barack Obama, that reached 97,000 pages of rules and regulations that by law must be obeyed by individuals, companies, and corporations. Under our current president, thank God, President Trump, one of the first things he did was attack the Federal Register. And today, now, there is only 67,000 pages of rules and regulations. He chopped that down by about 30 to 40% because if you want to strangle a business, all you got to do is make more rules and regulations punishable by fines and criminality or whatever else. You just keep adding on more and more rules and regulations. And that is what Barack Obama called the new normal. I'm sure you remember that.
Yeah, he said the new norm. We have to get used to 1.9% growth. We have to get used to the fact that. But this is the thing that's really scary. That was one thing that when we talk about the economy, but when you talk about the state of America being the number two world power, he said he and his cronies said we're just managing the transition from America declining to number two to China ascending to number one. Remember when they used to say that?
Yes, that's correct. Yes, they did. Yeah, and that's enough to raise the hackles on the back of anyone's neck. It's that borders on treason.
And
To me,
and
I
and
think that there literally borders on treason.
and Trump said, "Not on my watch."
Thank God for
But
Donald Trump. Huh?
but think about it. I mean, when I raised that alarm, when others raised that alarm, we were called xenophobes. We were called homophobes. We were called racists. We were called. I'm a black man. How you gonna call me a racist? How you gonna call me a xenophobe? How you gonna call me any of these phobias, which I don't agree with? The only phobia America's ever suffered was nigrophobia, and as far as I'm concerned, that's faded. But the reality is these people under Barack Obama, these schoolboys, these Ivy League educated sissy boys. Said we're just like John Kerry. John Kerry looked like a total wuss standing up there next to Zahar, the Iranian foreign minister, when he knew that the Iranian nuclear deal was a hoax. It was not a good deal for the U.S. We gave them back what $120 billion in gold coins and bullion and all kinds of crazy. Uh,
it was actually worse than that. It was 150 billion dollars that was shipped via air from the United States to Tehran 2 weeks before the last day of the Barack Obama presidency. And you know where that money got spent. It got spent on terrorism, their nuclear program, and their ICBM program. And it's all targeted towards the United States and anybody that lives in a free country. It's awful, and that gets us into Islam, which is an entirely different issue than what we're talking today. But it certainly goes in that direction.
Yeah, it does because I don't know if have you ever heard of the term takia?
Yes, I've forgotten what it is though.
You spell it Taqiyya. Listeners out there, Taqiyya. What that means is that it's okay for a Muslim to deceive a non-Muslim into believing that they're not a Muslim and that they don't ascribe to Islam. So see, Muhammad was a sneaky SOB. He had it all worked out. So he said, "Hey, I know that you're going to have to be in situations. The way to work and undermine various groups and organizations is to pretend that you're not a Muslim. Barack Obama is a Muslim. He practiced Islam. Here's a man who publicly said, the most beautiful sound I've ever heard is the sound of call to prayer from the Maduras. I didn't say it. Barack Obama said it.
He said that multiple times. That's exactly right. And if people look at pictures of Barack Obama that include his hands, he also has an Islamic ring on his left hand.
Oh, that's not his wedding ring?
Nope.
Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah, if you look at it real close, there was an analysis done by someone. I forget the article's author right now, but the picture was taken of him, and his hand was in a certain position to where you could actually see the inscriptions on the ring of his finger. And it was Islamic for sure. This is while he's telling everyone that he was a Christian. And you're right. Part of Islamic law gives Muslims the right to lie if it's in the furtherance of the cause of Islam.
Oh yeah.
That's exactly right. And what's very interesting, being a theologian myself, I find this very interesting because if you compare Islam, the Quran, the Hadith, the Sunnah, excuse me,
Hmm.
along with biblical literature, did you know that within Islam there is no forbiddance? There's no forbiddance of not only lying to other people, but there is no law that is the second greatest commandment within Christendom. The first commandment is love God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul. The second law is love your neighbor and your enemies as you love yourself. That second law does not exist in Islam. Think about the implications of not having to spiritually care about other people, love other people. No, they don't. That does not exist within Islam.
And so when I see these people who come on television and they say, well, Islam is a peaceful religion, and I know they're lying. I know they're lying.
Yeah. Well, people like that, facts are no hindrance to their program. That's exactly right. You're 100% right.
Well, and so you have to, or we have to understand that there are a lot of forces at work here in the world, and there are a lot of evil things going on. And I often say that the devil's greatest trick is convincing people that he didn't exist and that God doesn't exist. So when I meet people who say they don't believe in God, yeah, that's okay. But don't tell me that you believe in Satan. Don't tell me that you practice all of these things that are against the Holy Scripture, regardless of what religion you are. I look at some of these folks, especially in the black church, and I call them Satan surrogates because they preach certain things that are not right. They're not right in God's eyes, and their actions certainly aren't right. So, I don't know about you, but
Yeah.
I, I was watching this television show called Downton Abbey, and this young man was from Ireland, and he's married into this Protestant family, and the patriarch of the Protestant family was saying, "Hey, I don't think I can." I don't think I can sit in a church with you and watch the baby get christened, your baby get Christian, with all the incense and the chanting and the pagan rituals. and I was thinking, and I was thinking because I've often thought of the Catholic Church that way as very very pagan. And I'm listening to this guy and I'm laughing because when I go into a Catholic church, one of the things that I do when they get to playing those organs and turn down the lights is I put my hand up around my neck. Man, I don't want a vampire bite me. But it's a joke. But
Okay. Well,
but
one of the things that you ought to know about me is, in addition to having been a scientist at NASA with a bachelor's degree in physics and chemistry and whatnot, I do hold a master's degree in Christian theology and pastoral ministry. And in my case, uh, the normal course of events after attaining that graduate degree level of education in academia is to be ordained either a deacon or go to seminary and become a priest. I didn't want to do either of those two things. I am a minister, but I'm unordained on purpose because I felt like God is bigger than any one religion, including Catholicism. I've been trained by Jesuits, pure Christianity, pure Catholicism, but I realized that God is far bigger than any one religion, including Catholicism. And that's the way I serve God is through direct prayer with God Almighty. And I do participate in Catholic, what people would call Catholic rituals, but I do so with a much broader perspective on life and God's creation than some other liturgists might.
Well, one of the things that tickles me, one of the things that tickles me is that when we look at a religion, when we look at what's going on out here, it kind of comes down to having faith and doing the right thing by other people. I don't care what your religion is. There's a certain way to treat people, and there's a certain way that we should treat each other. And I think if we did that, we'd have a better country. We'd have a better world. And I think that for some reason, for me, I saw people treating each other better under this president the last few years than I have in a long time. I see people rallying to each other. I see people with a spirit of we instead of I or they or I see people coming together. Like I was in a bakery the other day and a guy started talking to me and we talked for about 30 minutes and he said, it always amazes me how people talk about white and black people don't like each other. He said, and black people talk to me all the time. I talk to black people all the time. I wonder what the hell are they talking about? But they try to keep these schisms between us so that we can't enjoy our Americana. Because at the end of the day, we're all Americans. And Richard,
Absolutely correct.
and Richard,
And what you're referring to is the effects of identity politics perpetrated on the American people by Barack Obama. And when you get that horrifically negative view of the American people, God's children, when you stop trying to split them up into various little segments and then try in turn to take this segment and pitch it against another segment, that type of thing. Identity politics was originated by Satan himself, in my personal opinion. And it's absolutely horrific that Barack Obama, President of the United States, never having a job in his life, would perpetrate that kind of hate against the American people, all doing so with a smile on his face. It kind of gets me going. It's awful, absolutely awful.
well, Richard, I say, and this is one of my things that I made up, that I came up with. I said there are basically five things that made America great, and other countries have tried to emulate. And when I tell you these things, you'll find that the EU has tried to emulate what we do here in America. The African Union, and now Asian countries are trying to come up with their own version of the European Union. But it's this: we have one set of laws, the Constitution. We have one language that we should make official, and that's English. We have one religion, Christianity. We have one currency, the dollar, which translates into bringing everybody together in this big pot. And when we go out into the world, leaving our own little communities, our own neighborhoods, we have something else in common. It's called Americana. We have traditions, we have respect, we have history. I call it Americana. and that's what we bring to the table. The Europeans can't say that because you have, the Spanish and the Portuguese and the Italians and the British and the French. You have all these different, they don't have a common history. They don't have these common
Oh, that's exactly right.
they don't have these common things in.
Yeah, you're.
Go ahead.
I say you're exactly right, and I love those 5 points. I don't think I've run across anybody smart enough to boil down the American experience in those five very key points. You're 100% right. I agree.
So when you called in the show as a guest, you had no idea that you'd have this enlightening, huh?
Well, let's just call it we're shining our lights upon each other
We are.
in a very God
We
mannered
are.
way.
But when I got your stuff here, it had all these questions for me to ask. But and I asked a couple of them. But the thing is, I guess when you get most talk show hosts, they don't really know where to go, what to talk about, and here we've covered a lot of very important points and salient points, and I hope educated the listeners out there about the country, where we're going, what we hope to accomplish, and that they need to understand
Yes.
that these trumped up charges on the president. I've read the transcript to my audience 4 or 5 times. I've read this thing about 10 times to myself, and I don't see where the president did anything wrong. They lied. Well, the president asked. He asked for the Ukrainian president to spy on Joe Biden. He said, "No, look in the Crow Strike for me and find out what those people are doing. One of your wealthy people was working this server, and we need to figure out, what he was doing with the DNC." But that's not in the transcript. But he said, "Hey, just check on CrowdStrike." Um, Amazing how they just lie. I mean, Adam Schiff is the biggest liar. I think one day he hopes to run for president, like Cory Booker.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. He'll never make it though because he's got too many lies in his background that people can pick and choose which ones they want to attack him on.
Yeah. So, look, we got about another minute here.
Well,
Go ahead.
yeah, I just wanted to say that for your listeners, uh, if you want to understand the interaction, the linkage between Christianity and politics. That's really the reason I wrote the book Christians Alert, Democrats Are Attacking Our Country. The first 30% of the book talks about Christian theology in very simple terms that hopefully a broad brush of people with various backgrounds can appreciate and understand and say, oh, that's why the scriptures say this or why the scriptures say that. And this is how I can use that in my everyday life. That's really the first third of Christians Alert, the book. I talk about the psychology of our politicians and how things go terribly wrong with their mentality and what really drives them. And then the last part of the book talks about all the heinous things that the Democrat Party is trying to perpetrate against the American people, God's people that live in this country. And so hopefully by if I accomplish my goals, it is to tell the truth about theology, about Christianity, about psychology of politicians, and then here's the tactics that are being used against us, the American people, God's children. And you take away the cloak, you shine the light on the way in which Democrats are attacking our country, and then in the future, having read the book, you'll recognize what they're up to with anything new they might decide to try to foist upon us. So that was the reason I wrote the book, and hopefully I can shed a lot of light on in people's lives that God wants them to know.
Okay, let's do this. Tell them what the book is again and where they can get it.
Sure. Christians Alert, Democrats are attacking our country. That is the first book of a trilogy, actually, and it is out today. You can buy it at advantagepublishing.com, or you can always get it at Barnes and Noble and Amazon.com, called Christians Alert, Democrats are attacking our country. The second book in the trilogy will be out in about 3 weeks on the market, and it's called The Children of the Swamp. And the word swamp is definitely consistent with what Donald Trump views the swamp to be. And I talk about the psychology of the Democrat Party and why they've gone astray so miserably and how they are attacking in more detail our country. The third book of the trilogy is called Satan, Socialism, and the Democrat Party. And there we talk about uh, socialism and what they're trying to do to our country, why it's horrifically wrong. It's against the will of the God himself. And Satan, how he fits in with the Democrat Party from a theological perspective. It amazes me how the characteristics of Satan match up so closely with the characteristics of what the Democrat Party is trying to do with socialism and the manner in which they're trying to implement it and fool all of us, God's children living in this country.
Well, I hope that you send me a copy of both, and we'll come back. We'll have to do this again, but this was wonderful. This was
Well, we certainly will.
truly wonderful, Richard. Thank you so much for writing the books and coming on my show and sharing with my audience the what's going on out here and how we are under attack as Americans. Appreciate it.
Well, may God bless you, your family, and every one of your listeners and their family too. The truth is out there. Hopefully, I have provided truth to people through the books that I've written, and the America. Hopefully, I will, in some fashion, return the honor and just the pleasure of being an American citizen.
Well, I tell you, I wouldn't trade mine for anything else. Thank you so much, Richard. Take care. Have a good one.
God bless. Bye
You too.
bye.
Bye bye. That was Richard Ferguson. Richard Ferguson. Don't forget to go out and get his book, folks. A lot of fun, lot of information imparted here today. You know, so much so that I didn't get a chance to talk about the hypocrite Adam Schiff. Adam Schiff is such a hypocrite. Adam Schiff tickles the heck out of me. You know, this is the guy, if you remember a couple of years ago, he took a call from what he thought were some Russians who were giving him some dirt on Trump and Ukraine. Remember? It is too funny. And this guy acts like, oh, the president, he talked to these people and he's just such a bad person. No, the bad person is Alan Schiff. I'm sorry. Alan is a bad person, besides being a liar, a hypocrite. He and stirring up all of this trouble for the president and the American people. You know, you have to question what is the motive of these folks. Are they Americans? Do they really care about us? And the answer is absolutely not. Hey, look, we'll be back tomorrow with Frank Venucio, maybe Judge Janine. So tune us in here at Red State Talk Radio, the reality check with Charles Butler. Okay, we're back, and we're still broadcasting out here on Red State, and I'm sorry, on Facebook and uh, YouTube, and so thanks for sticking around. Appreciate it. Go out there, check me out. We're out there in living color, in living color. Um, but Adam Schiff, man, this guy, he is too much. He's too much. So I'm uh I'm kind of, let's see here. Okay. So this is Adam Schiff and his trying to get dirt on Trump or anybody. he can from the Russians. He got boinked. He got duped. Listen to this. Here we go. Come on. It's gonna be a minute here. It's got to wind up. Dun, 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 dun. I could sit here and do wind-ups all day. See, did I record it?
What we have seen in that call record is a president of the United States use the full weight of his office to manufacture dirt on his opponent and interfere in our election.
Uh-oh.
Recordings of both Sobchak and Buseva, where they're discussing the compromising material on Mr. Trump?
Absolutely.
Well, obviously, we would welcome a chance to get copies of those recordings.
It is illegal, improper, a violation of oath, a violation of his duty to defend our elections and our Constitution for the president to merely ask for foreign interference.
Well, what did Adam Schiff say? We'd like to get that information if we could. How much do you want? Man, you can't make this stuff up. You can't make this stuff up even if you wanted to. It's just too good. It's too good. It's too good to be true. And I don't know. I think time and time again that somehow Washington's going to clean its act up. But, this impeachment inquiry of Donald Trump is another witch hunt, another shot in the dark. They have nothing to go on. As the former police commissioner of New York, Gerbic said, he said that I don't want to call the whistleblower. He's a deep state operative. I'm with him. Let's listen to this, his characterization of this person. Let's go.
You're going to see a couple things. And I can't wait for these so-called hearings because I think you're going to find out there was communications between the congressional staff and the alleged whistleblower. I don't like calling him a whistleblower. He's a covert operative that was within the administration that put this stuff out there, had no personal knowledge. They changed that reporting requirement,
right,
basically so this guy could get this thing public. It's nonsense.
And that looks like coordination to you?
Absolutely, 100%. 100%. This is an attempted coup of the president of the United States that's been going on for almost 3 years now. This is just another element of it.
All right, Bernard Carrick.
Wow, Bernard Carrick. I mean, he's former, commissioner of New York Police Department. I mean, people are pissed. People can see through this charade. And folks in Washington, they're going to burn. Yeah, they're going to burn. They're going to burn. Hey, but look, we're going to knock it off, shut it down, bring it back tomorrow. So tune us in. Okay?
Next level.